I just reached over £100,000 invested between my stock portfolio and my emergency fund. I've been investing for the past 8 years, so honestly this is a pretty big milestone to hitting that first 6-figure mark. You've probably heard a quote from Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's partner. He says that the first 100,000 is a bitch, but you have to do it. He then basically goes on to say that you should be doing everything you can to get there. You should walk everywhere and buy food only if you have a coupon to buy it. You just have to do simply whatever you can to reach that £100,000 mark. And once you do, you can let off the gas a little bit. So over the past 8 years, I have been able to get there, and in this video, I'm going to explain some of the principles that I have used to get to that £100,000 mark. Because the faster you get to £100,000, the less you have to worry about investing for the rest of your life. This is because if you can do it in your 20s, compound interest will do most of the heavy lifting. If you can just get to £100,000 before the age of 30, you will have 1.6 million in retirement if you get an average of 8% returns over that 35-year period, and you don't have to invest a penny after you turn 30. Now, that's not what I plan to do. I plan to continue investing, and I want to have as big of a nest egg as possible and potentially retire much earlier than 65. However, for most people, you probably just want to know that you have a secure retirement down the line. So by doing this stuff in your 20s, it can free up a lot of money for you if you simply want to go out there and spend everything you earn after you hit that £100,000 mark before 30. But if you wait longer, if you wait from 30 to 40 to start investing, you're going to have to invest a huge portion of your income every single month if you want to have a successful retirement. So that's why I think it's a much better option to simply invest as much as you can in your 20s, do everything you can to reach that £100,000 mark before the age of 30, and that's going to give you so much more freedom in the rest of your life. So in this video, I'm going to go through, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I have done to save money and put away as much as I possibly could, as well as sharing some of the biggest things and mistakes that I potentially made throughout the journey. But just before we get into those tips, let me tell you a little bit about my investing journey and where I started and how this portfolio has grown over the past 8 years. So I've been investing since I was 18 years old. I remember making my first ever investment in a company called Audioboom. It was essentially a penny stock. There was a lot of talk about it on forums. I invested £200 in it. At the time, I was making £5 an hour working in a pizza shop. So that was a huge amount of money for me, but I remember like the thrill of it. I invested, I went back to class in school, and I remember just pulling out my phone like every couple of minutes, checking the price going up and down. I think it went down a lot more than it went up at that period. Eventually I sold it and just started investing in index funds. And I did that for pretty much 4 years, from 2015 to 2019, and I got to about £30,000 in my account. Now, at that time, I decided I'm going to go ahead and buy a house, so I took everything out and I used that money to purchase my first home. But after that, literally the month after I purchased my house, I got back on it and I started investing as aggressively as I could in 2019, trying to build up that portfolio again. From 2019 to today, we've managed to go from zero all the way to £100,000 in my account. Now, 2019 to 2023 was definitely not a normal period for the stock market or how much I could contribute to my portfolio. One, I was benefiting from lockdowns. I couldn't go anywhere, I couldn't spend any money, and I pretty much saved like probably 80% of my income. I was lucky enough that I had my own business and I could still make money through the lockdown. So I was making money, but I couldn't spend any of it, so I just filled my ISA each of those years in 2020 and 21. The end of 2019, I'd put some in as well, and you can see this in the chart of growth of my portfolio, and I maxed out my ISA those 2 years. Now, I didn't manage to max out my ISA in 2022 because I decided, look, let's go ahead, let's do a little bit of traveling. We've been locked down, we've saved a ton of money the last couple of years, so I put in what I could, and then this year, I'm kind of back on track trying to max out my ISA if I can this year. And we're pretty much on track to do that. So that's been the journey of how the portfolio has grown. Now, it might take you 6, 7, 8 years to reach that first £100,000, but that is fine. If you leave uni at 22, you've 8 years to get to 30 and just maximize those savings in those years and try and reach that £100,000 mark. Number one is stay at home as long as you possibly can when you're young. Now, I know this is not an option for everyone, but there is a large majority of people that could do this, and just don't take advantage of it, because when you're young, you think, I want to get out of the house, I want to get my own place, and that's fine and it's exciting and you can do it. And I think, uni is a great place to do that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with moving home, moving in with your parents after university. I think it's a great way to save money. For 4 to 5 years, you can save a huge amount. Let's just take a look at some of the numbers to see how much you could actually be saving by staying at home and how this can affect your road to that 100k. For example, if you were to go out there and save £750 a month, that would be your rent, that would be some of your electricity bills and other bills you have to pay when you own a home. So by living at home, you don't have to pay them, you're probably getting some of your food paid for as well. But saving and investing £750 a month over the course of 8 years, that will get you to that 100k mark at an 8% return. Now, we don't know what the returns are going to be, but on average, 8% is a good benchmark that we can use. It's going to get you, if you invest $750 a month, close enough to that 100k mark that you'll probably hit it by the time you're 30. Now, a lot of people are probably going to say, but I don't have a big salary, I'm just out of uni. Now, if you don't go to university and you come out of school and start working at 18, I think this is even more doable than for people who go to university. Because if you can do this from 18 to 26, you come out of school, you get a job in, a managerial path or even an apprenticeship. But even if you're only earning 25k per year on average throughout them 8 years, you should be able to get much higher than that over an 8-year period in a career. But even if you're only earning 25k, that gives you about £1,700 a month after tax. You shouldn't need much more than £1,000 to live at that age. If you're living at home, what do you need money for, right? Going out at the weekends a couple of times, I still think you should do that. I'm not saying that you should skip your coffee and skip your pints on the weekend with the boys. That's completely fine. But you want to make sure you're doing it in control, right? You're not just blowing all of your money. But £1,000 clothes, protein powder, petrol for a shitty car. You don't need a fancy car at that age. And just pour the rest of the money into the market and then grow it over that 6, 7, 8 year period. Up until 26, 27, even 28 now. Like, loads of people are living at home with their parents. It's not a huge deal to go out there and do that. It's not even an anomaly. So if you can do that and just maximize your savings throughout that period, I think it'll give you a huge leg up in life. Next up is investing before you do anything else. When you get money into your account each month, first thing you do is take a portion of that money and put it aside into an investment account and make sure you actually invest the money into something. I invest personally in index funds. I think it's the simplest and best way to invest for most of us, but go ahead and do that. Now, there's another thing that you can do and are possibly already doing, which is investing through your employee pension. Now, as an employee, most companies will offer an employee match. Most employers have to offer this now, and they will go ahead and they will match your contribution up to a certain amount. I think employers have to match up to a minimum of 3%. Some will offer even more. So what you want to do is at least match whatever they're going to give you. That is free money. It's 100% return on your money. If you put £100 in and then match it, you're going to get £200 invested into your pension. And that is a great start. Now, I would still recommend investing outside of your pension as well. You can invest through a stocks and shares ISA, which allows you to invest in a stock account. Whenever those stocks go up in value and you sell them, you don't have to pay any tax. Any dividends you receive from them stocks, you don't have to pay any tax. And that is huge. Like, if you think about the compound interest you can earn from money over a 35, 40 year period, you could have massive gains there that are tax free, which is huge. Another benefit of a stocks and shares ISA is you can take that money out at any point. Whereas if you invest in a pension, let's say, you can't get that money out until your retirement age, or you'll have to pay a penalty on it. So when you get your paycheck every month, that's what you want to do. And I think this is one of the biggest psychological tricks that you can use on yourself. I pretty much keep my bank account as £500 is my zero. That's just like a buffer I have there that if any bills, any unexpected things come out, there's still money there to take out and I won't go into my overdraft. So in my head, 500 is zero. I'll get my money in each month. And the first thing I'll do, money to investments. The next thing that I will do is try and schedule all my bills for the first 5 or so days of the month. My mortgage comes out, my electric bills come out, whatever it is, they all come out early in the month. So I know by, the 5th of the month, I know roughly how much money I've got left, and it's whatever is above that £500. So if I have £1,700 in the account, I know that throughout the month, I have £1,200 to spend here, and I can spend it on anything. I don't have to worry really about budgeting too much. I do have a rough idea in my head of what I want to spend money on throughout the month, but that money's there. It's there to be spent, and I don't have to worry about, do I need to leave some over for investing at the end of the month? Because I've already invested. Whereas if you do this, and what most people tend to do is do it the other way around, and they go, I'll invest whatever's left over at the end of the month. Let's be real, there's nothing left over at the end of the month. As humans, we tend to spend whatever is there. So I try and keep my current account as low as I possibly can. Again, that £500 buffer, and then whatever is just above that, that's the rest of the money I have for the rest of the month. So I think that is probably one of the best psychological tricks that you can use. And we tend to just simply adapt to whatever we have in our account. And this happens on, the other side as well. When you get a pay rise, you just now adapt to that new level of pay. But I like to think of this as kind of just artificially suppressing your income, because you're putting money away, you're saving, you're investing for your future, which is going to be great, and you just live off this money as if that's all the money that you ever had anyway. So I really like this method. It's helped me a ton to save consistently over time. Next up is budgeting and auditing your expenses. I'm not huge on following a strict budget every single month, but I know some people like to do that. They need to do that to keep them on track, and that's fine. But what I think you should be doing is at least having a look through your bank statements each month, noticing patterns where your money's going. Are you spending too much on nights out? Are you spending too much eating out at lunchtime, etc., etc.? Because if you can just never look at your bank, you probably won't notice these little things that just creep in and bad habits that you're maybe doing, which is really no need to be doing anyway, and they don't bring you any extra joy in your life. So at a minimum, be checking through your statement. If you do want to follow a strict budget, we have what we call the 50-30-20 budget sheet, and you can get it for free down below in the description. But this allows you to track every single category that you spend on, where your savings are going, where your investments are going, and how much income you're bringing in, and it allows you to track month to month. This can be great for some people who just really are all over the show and need something organized to help them track it. So if you want to get that, it's free. You can get it down below in the description. So you can use a budget and stay really, really strict with it, but you should at a minimum just know roughly how much you're spending each month, how much you're bringing in, and how much you are investing. Now, I would also, and I do this every couple of months, both in my business and in my personal accounts, is go through and look for recurring expenses that really don't need to be there. How many times have you went ahead and signed up for Now TV to watch Billions and then you forget to cancel it? I've done this so many times, and I go ahead, I do it, and then next thing you know, there's $13.99 or whatever it is coming out every single month. Now, if you can cancel a couple of these subscriptions every time you do this, let's say you save £25 every time you do it, that's a huge amount of money every year. That's £300 a year. That's a significant saving, and it's a significant amount of money you can put towards your house deposit, your investments, to help you reach that £100,000 goal. Next up is just not buying absolutely useless bullshit that is, keeping you poor for the rest of your life. If you can just avoid this stuff in your 20s, you can spend on your money, right? You hit this 100,000 goal, you can spend on these things eventually. But if you're not there yet, you can't. Number one is designer clothes. And I'm no fashion person. I'm very bad at dress sense and whatnot, but I know that you can go out there and dress reasonably well for cheap. You definitely do not need to be purchasing Louis Vuitton, designer goods, £400 shoes. These are all ridiculous things. If you're not making £10,000, £15,000 a month, I don't think you should have any designer logos on your body. It's absolutely outrageous, and people who are making that money, they're just not buying it either, because it's just a waste of money and everybody knows it. You're just trying to signal to other people that you're wealthy, and you're not, right? You're not. You've literally spent 20% of this month's pay on a t-shirt that you're going to go out on the weekend on and spill a pint over and ruin it. It's absolutely outrageous. This is one of the places where I would just spend zero money on. Do not buy designer clothes before you hit that £100,000 mark. And by the time you hit it, you'll probably realize that they're just useless anyway. Next up is eating out every day. And this one is in particular, if you're going to an office job, you're working on a building site, whatever it is, it's so easy to go and just buy stuff from the shop, but it's so expensive to do that now. Like, you go into the shop and buy lunch, get yourself a drink, maybe a coffee, and you maybe get a coffee in the morning as well, and then you grab something on the way home. That can be £20 per day. That's £100 a week, £400 per month. That's a significant chunk towards your investments and getting you to that 100k mark before 30 if you just cut that stuff out. Make your lunches at home, bring a coffee in the morning. I see a lot of these like memes and millennial things saying like, oh, just, cut out your coffee and you'll be able to buy a house. And it's not just the coffee. It's the lunch, the coffee, the £30 a day that it adds up to. If you did just save that, you probably could buy a house fairly quickly. If you save £30 a day just on the days you work, that is literally £600 a month. That's enough to put away and have a house deposit in 3, 4, 5 years. It's very, very doable. Next up is cars, and this is one that I have wasted so much money on. This is my biggest thing. We've all got our vices, all got our places where we spend money. I'm pretty good. I've never bought designer clothes, don't really care about them. Eating out and stuff, it's handy enough for me because I work from home, so I don't really have that problem. But cars, I have bought so many cars, supercars, things that, I could always afford them. They always come out of my wants budget, but I wasted a lot of money on them, and I could probably have 30 grand or so more if I just stuck with a reasonably nice car. Now, again, this is one thing that I have done. I've literally went from driving an Audi R8 to driving a Honda Civic, and I can tell you that nobody cares, right? You're probably going to buy a car, go get a payment on it. It's going to cost you £300, £400 a month. Nobody cares. It's just a car. It gets you from A to B, and especially in your 20s, everyone's driving shit cars. Just drive a shit car. Don't get one on payment. Hold off until you're in your 30s or so, and then you can buy a nice car once you've got that £100,000 saved away. I can tell you from someone who's had the cars, someone who's sold the cars, it doesn't matter what car you have. I like cars, I enjoy them, and I'll probably buy one in the future, but it's definitely not something that is going to make a noticeable difference in your life. You still get up every day, get into the car and drive to work. It doesn't really matter after the 4th time you've done it what car you're driving in. You still go into work and it sucks. Last but not least on this list is drinking and smoking. I don't smoke, but I do go out and drink, and sometimes it'll be 4 times a month. Other times, I'll take off it. I was stopped drinking for 2 months there while I was training for a marathon. And honestly, the amount of money you save by not drinking or just going out a couple of nights less a month is insane. If you go out and you drive and you just, get a couple of 0 beers, whatever it is so much cheaper. You don't have to pay £60 for a taxi home. You don't have to go ahead and buy, spend £100 on drinks. You don't have to get that pizza on the way home, which wasn't good for you, and it cost £25 as well. So if you can just cut that back one night a week and put that money away, or go do something a little bit cheaper and put the extra money that you saved away in an investment account, you can save a ton of money by doing that. And I'm definitely not the person who's going to sit here and tell you not to enjoy yourself in your 20s. You're only 21, so you should enjoy yourself, go out, do all these things, travel, but do it responsibly and make sure you're putting money aside as well, and make sure you're not going into debt for any of those things. And those are just a few examples of places that I see people, or I've done it myself, where I've wasted money. Depending on who you are, what you do, we've all got our different vices and places that we spend money. So those were my tips on saving, and I'm going to very quickly now run through 3 tips on investing that I have learned throughout building my portfolio to £100,000. Just before we get into those 3 tips, I would say that most people, especially in your 20s, you shouldn't be spending your time and spending hours upon hours researching stocks. For most people, look, there's some people that are going to love it and enjoy it, and that's fine. But for most people, just find an index fund. For example, one of my favorite index funds in the last video I made, which you can check out up here, is the Fidelity Index World. And that invests in about 70% United States and 30% kind of the rest of the world. It's a great index fund, and I absolutely love it. It has low cost fees and has done well historically. If I had to just put all of my money into it 8 years ago when I started, I would have a considerably bigger portfolio than I do now. And that's because I made a few vital mistakes. So let's get into them. The first one is avoid the hype. Whether it's a friend telling you to buy this hypey penny stock, or it's watching a YouTuber like myself give you advice on a stock and say this thing's gonna pump. There's two stocks in particular I can remember purchasing. One of them went down about 96, 97%, which before that happens to you, you don't actually believe it can really happen. It sounds crazy, but it does. So that happened to me and I lost all that money, and it was a great lesson to learn. And it was a three-wheel car company that I'd watched some YouTuber talk about during the pandemic. It was, at that time was crazy. Stocks were going up and you just want to get in on the hype. And I knew fundamentally in my head, like, this is a terrible investment. The only reason I was investing is because other people were investing. The price was, absolutely rocketing at the time. As soon as I bought in, it started to go down. But you see that and you try and get in, just don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not even worth your time looking at it. Just invest in the index and go focus on making more money. That's what you should be doing. Number two is do not try and time the market. Now, I've done this a few times where, even though I have been mostly invested in index funds, I've seen the market kind of reach its top. And honestly, I've done pretty well with timing the top and selling out. And I've sold out, and that was fine. You think you're great, the market starts to go down. But the problem comes when you have to buy back in. Whenever you sell 40 grand of stock, I personally find it hard to go ahead and invest 40 grand on a single day again. So what ends up happening is I go ahead and I start investing 2 grand here, 3 grand there. And over time, I've lost money because yes, I timed the top of the market at that point, but then it dropped and it started gradually going up. And as it went up, I invested 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, but it starts to go past the point that I sold at. And on average, I'm actually investing at a higher cost, which is silly. And that happens to so many people, and you don't think about it because you think at the time you made a good decision by selling the top, and you didn't, because now you have to buy back in. It's best to just stay in the market and stay invested. Last but not least is simply keeping it simple. It's what I mentioned at the start, is just go with index funds. They're probably going to be the best option for most people. It's the best option for me. Now, I do invest in a few individual stocks as well, and the reason behind that is I have experience with the stock. For example, in my industry and my company, we publish content, and I seen the AI boom coming. As soon as ChatGPT was released, I seen how it was affecting my industry and the publishing industry. And when I seen this, I went ahead and started investing in AMD. I started investing in Microsoft because they had a stake in OpenAI. And since then, them stocks are up well over 50% from kind of the end of last year. And I got in simply because I'd seen it in my industry and seen what was happening. So if that's a way that you find stocks and you think you can, see trends happening kind of maybe before the general retail investor because you're in that industry, that could be a way to find investments. So that's pretty much it. Keep it simple. Avoid the hype and pretty much just invest in index funds. Now, that's it for this video. I'm not going to go in and show you all of my stocks and stuff in this video. It would just be way too long. If you do want to see that, let me know down in the comments. Let me know if you enjoy these videos. Hit like if you're new here, and make sure and go and check out moneysprout.co.uk. We have over 100 free guides on there, reviews of all the brokerage platforms, and tons of other stuff. You can get a 7-day free crash course as well. Link in description. 50, 30, 20 budget sheet down there as well. You can also get up to £100 in free stocks at Trading 212 down below in the description. Your capital is at risk when you invest. We can go ahead and check them out and get them free stocks if you want. I'll see you guys in the next one.